My apologies for my appearance today. I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but I got a little bit of facial swelling going on. And that's mostly to do with the fact that I think I'm allergic to the bullshit that I hear about the DCU every single day. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
If there's one thing that we can count on when it comes to WB and DC Studios, it's that there will always be some kind of rumor or news item that will contradict what we think we know about the upcoming DCU reboot. Some will call it pleasantly unpredictable, others will call it dysfunction. It just depends on your point of view. But when it comes to today's news, it is entirely possible that this could mean the end of Matt Reeves' Batman Universe. Something that, if it happens, I believe would be seen as WB and DC repeating past mistakes.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
So the Hollywood Reporter is saying that Colin Farrell is in talks to star in DC Studios' upcoming Sergeant Rock project. Now, outside of the obvious elephant in the room, that being I'm not sure who is clamoring for a Sergeant Rock project in the first place, this also opens up a whole new can of worms that WB and DC can't really afford to deal with right now. Let's analyze this for a second. Colin Farrell is coming off one of his most critically acclaimed performances in the Penguin TV series. He received accolade after accolade. The show has been praised to the point that it's easily considered one of the few recent success stories for DC. And even taking all of that into consideration, somehow we have heard absolutely nothing about the Penguin series getting renewed for a second season. How does something as popular and as critically acclaimed as the Penguin series not get an immediate renewal? And something like Creature Commandos that absolutely nobody gave a shit about gets renewed immediately. Now, I understand that it's a much different creative process. It's a bigger commitment when you compare a live-action series to an animated series. But ask yourself this: when was the last time you've known Hollywood to not try to capitalize on something that has a considerable amount of positive buzz around it? Unless, of course, the studio who owns that property has intentions of sabotaging it for reasons that we do not understand.
Holy God, what are you showing me? Come on! Open your eyes!
Now, they could easily be working on The Penguin Season 2 right now as we speak. But if the Batman Part 2 delays have taught us anything, it's that nothing is guaranteed over at WB and DC. Matt Reeves reportedly had ideas for multiple spin-offs in his series. An Arkham series, a Gotham PD series, and yes, even a Clayface series. And yet, as it stands right now, none of those projects seem to be in the works any longer, and there's a good chance that they will never in fact exist. Do you really think that someone like Matt Reeves, who has all of these great concepts in his head, somehow doesn't have the time or the talent to actually pull them off? Now, I do understand that he's had some personal issues behind the scenes, which could account for the delay in some of these projects moving forward. But to have this little movement on anything in the Reeves-verse, post the Batman and post the Penguin TV series, red flags start going up everywhere. Something is not adding up about this entire situation, and now we have news today that Colin Farrell is in talks to play Sergeant Rock. Now, you would have to at least consider that if that happens, a Penguin Season 2 is not all that likely. Would the studio want Colin Farrell to be playing two different predominant roles in DC projects? Would the audience even accept that? Now, I don't personally see that as a big deal because, to me, it is very clearly two different universes at this point. Add that with the fact that Colin Farrell is almost completely unrecognizable in the role of the Penguin, I just don't think that audiences are going to have that much of a problem with it. But you do realize that the studio thinks that most of its audience and fan base are complete idiots. So it is possible that in their minds they want to avoid any perceived confusion that might come with casting him in two different roles.
That makes sense.
Plus, we have the added speculation of this casting decision being one big troll job by WB and James Gunn. Because they would basically be stealing someone very important away from the Reeves-verse that they are potentially holding up themselves and using him in the DCU instead. Now, I'd like to think that no one could be that petty and vindictive, but when you have actual Gunn fans considering this possibility and speaking it out loud, I think it's something that is worth talking about. Now, I've said many times that it feels like Matt Reeves' vision is being sabotaged by someone, and I stand by that. I do not think that WB and James Gunn want the possibility of internal competition, because I just don't think that they are confident that they can compete. Matt Reeves, obviously, at least from my perspective, is a much better director than James Gunn could ever be. And I do believe that James Gunn could have potentially felt threatened about what Matt Reeves had planned in his universe. And this is a big reason why I feel like this entire Reeves universe is probably going to get canceled at some point if it hasn't been quietly canceled already. Or you could even consider the possibility that we do eventually get the Batman Part 2, but it comes so late in the game that people aren't even excited for it anymore. And we are creeping closely to that situation. Once again, it feels like WB and DC are not striking while the iron is hot. Why they didn't take one of their biggest recent success stories and go all in on it, I will never understand. Instead of embracing what worked, they are once again going the reboot route. And we've seen this scenario play out time and time again, so I don't know why anyone would think that this situation is any different.
Something very familiar about all this.
Is it possible that the Reeves-verse and the DCU could exist at the same time? Absolutely. Is it possible that Colin Farrell could play a role in both universes without confusion? Of course. But it's not likely because, once again, it appears that WB is determined to get in their own way. Leave it to them to ruin what would potentially be a profitable situation to once again attempt to do that one thing that they've always wanted to do but have never been able to, and that's catch up to Marvel. What they don't seem to realize is that their best DC content came into existence when they allowed independent filmmakers with unique visions to bring those stories to life. And they actually exceeded at that, creating cinema the likes of which Marvel could never compete with. But the problem, as always, is that they do not have the courage to be different. And they have no ability whatsoever to read the room. They cannot fathom the possibility that DC shouldn't be treated the same way as Marvel. Matt Reeves, whether you like his vision or not, was doing something different and blazing his own path with the Reeves-verse. He was offering an alternative in the comic book movie genre, and to the surprise of absolutely no one, WB is choosing not to embrace him. Stop me if you've heard this before.
Y'all be cool. Nah.